If you are listening to the sound of my voice right now, I need you to slow down and stay exactly where you are. Do not scroll past this moment. This is not random, and it is not just another piece of content passing through your feed. This is positioning. You were brought here deliberately because a decree has been released over your life. And heaven is not speaking in vague language today. God is speaking with clarity, precision, and authority. He says, I'm restoring the 40 years you lost, and I am restoring them with a 20 times payback. This is not sympathy. This is not emotional comfort. This is compensation. For a long time, you carried the quiet, heavy weight of time slipping through your fingers. You watched seasons change while your own progress felt delayed, blocked or quietly stolen. You carried responsibility before reward, endurance before evidence, obedience before understanding. You learned how to keep going without answers. You asked God questions late at night that you never dared to say out loud. You wondered if patience had cost you too much. You wondered if waiting had made you invisible. Today, God answers you plainly. He says those years were not lost. They were invested. You need to understand how heaven defines loss versus investment, because your pain trained you to mislabel endurance as failure. Heaven does not call something lost just because it was painful. Heaven only calls something lost if it produced nothing. And your 40 years produced something powerful, even if you could not see it while you were inside it. They produced depth where others only had speed. They produced discernment where others relied on impulse. They produced restraint, wisdom, and spiritual authority that cannot be rushed, borrowed, or faked. While others were building visible success, you were building internal structure that could withstand pressure without collapsing. God was not being slow with you. He was being precise with you. Those years were not punishment for your mistakes. They were preparation under extreme pressure. You were being forged in ways that protected your future. Many people rise quickly and fall quietly because they skip this stage. You did not skip it. You endured it. And now the season of forging has expired, and the season of favoring has begun. Favor is not random kindness. Favor is alignment between preparation and timing. The reason this restoration comes with a 20 times payback is because God does not restore emotionally. He restores judicially. He does not simply return what was taken. He compensates for what it should have become if delay had not interfered. You did not just lose time on a clock. You lost opportunities that should have multiplied. You lost peace that should have produced clarity. You lost resources that should have generated momentum. Heaven calculates all of that interest. God restores not just what you lost, but what the loss delayed. That is why the return feels excessive. That is why it feels sudden. That is why your logic struggles to make sense of it. Heaven is not negotiating fairness. Heaven is correcting a decades-long imbalance. When something has been withheld for years, it does not come back gently. It comes back decisively. God does not drip restoration. He releases it in waves strong enough to erase the memory of lack. Some of you feel resistance rising in your mind right now. Not because this is untrue, but because delay trained you to expect less. You learned how to survive disappointment by lowering expectations. You learned how to manage pain by shrinking hope. You learned how to be strong quietly so no one would worry about you. That survival mindset kept you alive in the wilderness, but it cannot carry you into restoration. God is not just changing your circumstances, He is retraining your expectations and recalibrating your sense of permission. Restoration requires capacity. If your capacity stays small, blessing feels overwhelming instead of freeing. That is why God expands you internally before accelerating you externally. You are being prepared to receive without panic, to move without fear, and to grow without self-sabotage. This is not just about what God gives you. It is about who you become while receiving it. Expansion always precedes acceleration. Before we continue, I want to say something clearly and without pressure. If this word is resonating with you, not emotionally but deeply, if you feel clarity settling instead of noise, then that tells me this message is doing what it was meant to do. I'm not here asking for support because of need. I'm here building a space where truth can be spoken without distortion. And that takes consistency, focus, and protection. Some people choose to mark moments like this by using the super thanks below, not as a donation, but as alignment, a way of saying, this mattered to me, and I'm anchoring it. Some people already know when a moment deserves to be marked. There is no obligation at all. Only do it if you feel led. But if you do, know that it directly helps keep messages like this focused, uninterrupted, and available to those who are still searching. Now let's continue. Here is something important most people miss. When God restores time, He also restores confidence in decision-making. You will notice hesitation leaving you. The constant second-guessing will quiet down. You will feel more settled making choices without needing endless confirmation. That is not recklessness. That is authority returning. Delay trained you to doubt your instincts. Restoration retrains you to trust discernment again. That shift alone saves years. God is restoring momentum by compressing time. This is how He redeems years. Things that normally take seasons will begin to overlap. One decision will unlock multiple outcomes. One conversation will shift direction. One door will lead to several opportunities. You will look back and wonder how things moved so quickly. And the answer will be because God is paying back delay with acceleration. This is not chaos. This is redeemed time operating at divine speed. Some of what God restores will appear small at first. A conversation, an idea, an invitation. Do not dismiss small beginnings in a season of acceleration. God often hides massive shifts inside, simple obedience to protect you from fear and overwhelm. The seed may look small, but the timeline attached to it is not. When God redeems time, growth happens quickly once it begins. Say yes when peace confirms it. Move when clarity aligns. Do not wait for everything to make sense. You also need to prepare your heart for relational shifts. Not everyone will celebrate this restoration. Some people grew comfortable with the delayed version of you. They understood you when you were always adjusting, always sacrificing, always waiting. When restoration begins, dynamics change, boundaries appear, silence increases, confidence settles. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. You are not changing to prove anything. You are changing because God is repositioning you for what comes next. The 20 times payback includes emotional restoration as well. For years you carried grief you never fully processed, because life did not slow down long enough for you to feel it. God is healing that without reopening wounds. Peace will settle quietly. Joy will return without effort. Rest will no longer feel irresponsible. Healing does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it arrives as calm where there was once tension. Sometimes it arrives as sleep where there was once exhaustion. There is also financial restoration coming, but it will not arrive recklessly. It will arrive strategically. God is restoring your ability to generate, manage, and multiply resources. Money will no longer feel like something that slips through your fingers. It will respond to wisdom and alignment. This is not about appearance or excess. It is about freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom to help, freedom to build, freedom to breathe without anxiety. That freedom is part of the payback. Another subtle sign of restoration is this. Your emotional reactions will shorten. Things that once ruined your entire day will lose their power quickly. You will recover faster. You will reset faster. That emotional resilience is not numbness. It is stability. God is restoring your nervous system along with your future. Now listen carefully. Restoration requires agreement, not striving. You do not need to chase what God has already released. You need to align with it. Stop speaking like someone still waiting. Stop rehearsing delay. Stop introducing yourself to the future using the language of the past. Words shape permission. When you keep saying one day after God says now, you slow reception. Align your speech with the decree. God says, I am restoring the 40 years you lost with a 20 times payback. And He means all of it. Not fragments, not pieces, not someday. This is not about reliving the past. It is about surpassing it. Your future will not look like a repaired version of your old life. It will look like a compensated one. That distinction matters because repair still carries the memory of damage, but compensation carries authority. Repair says something broken was patched. Compensation says something was wronged, and justice answered it. God is not fixing what failed. He is rewarding what endured. You did not merely survive those 40 years. You carried integrity. You carried faith. You carried responsibility when it would have been easier to quit. This is why the return does not resemble what you lost. It exceeds it. God is not bringing you back to where you were. He is moving you forward to where you should have been if delay had not interfered. That is also why this shift may feel disorienting at first. When time is redeemed, patterns break. Old rhythms no longer fit. You may find yourself less tolerant of confusion, less willing to stay where growth is restricted. That is not restlessness. That is alignment asserting itself. Restoration brings clarity, and clarity demands movement. God is not rushing you. He is removing what no longer belongs in your pace. Authority is being restored. For years, circumstances dictated your decisions. Needs dictated your schedule. Pressure dictated your priorities. In this next season, you will decide from clarity instead of urgency. You will choose from wisdom instead of fear. You are not just receiving outcomes, you are receiving governance over your life. Again, opportunities will begin to arrive without resistance. That does not mean you are not working. It means friction has been removed. Favor is alignment between timing, preparation, and assignment. You spent 40 years preparing in ways you could not measure. Now favor accelerates what preparation made possible. As you move forward, remember this. Restoration does not require you to forget the past. It requires you to stop living inside it. The past taught you. It does not define you. The lessons remain, but the limitation is gone. You will still be wise, but no longer cautious out of fear. You will still be humble, but you will no longer shrink to stay safe. God says the 40 years are over not because time passed, but because the assignment attached to them is complete. What comes next is not more waiting. It is unfolding quietly at first, then unmistakably. And when it does, you will not need to explain it to anyone. The results will speak for themselves. Stay alert. Pay attention. The restoration has